Moments after Donald Trump got his criminal conviction, the jury came out and read that verdict for the world to hear. Moments after that happened, Republicans across the country immediately began telling us, don't worry, the Supreme Court's got his back. Once this gets to the Supreme Court, everything's gonna be fine. We heard it from Ted Cruz, from Rand Paul, from the people at Fox News, from members of the House, other members of the Senate, all the Republicans like, no big deal, right? Supreme Court's got this one in the bag, because we got a big conservative majority there. But can they actually save him is the question. In fact, it is quite literally the question from Jackpot 7245, who asks, I keep seeing the Trumpers saying that it's going to the Supreme Court for his conviction. It's my understanding that it's a state case and that unless there is a question of unconstitutional basis that SCOTUS doesn't have jurisdiction over state law. Am I correct that the state Supreme Court is as high as it could go? You're right in your analysis of it, but the state Supreme Court is not as high as it could go because, as you point out, technically it can go to the U.S. Supreme Court. But Trump has to get past 2 appellate courts before he could make it to the Supreme Court. Unless, because there's always a caveat, and I hate it, but if Trump's legal team were to identify some kind of constitutional basis to get the case in front of the Supreme Court, they could file, for an emergency injunction saying, hey, we got to bypass the appellate courts, get it to you because there's a huge constitutional problem here with the state law. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, that's almost impossible to even prove. And if they were to do that, exhaust their case at the Supreme Court, then great. Hey, you're done, idiot. But more likely, they will have to go through the regular appellate process. So the appellate court, which we know is a panel made up of all female black justices, so let's see how that goes for Donald Trump. They will rule on it, and, I think we know where that's going to go. Then the New York State Supreme Court, where Judge Juan Merchan is also a justice, so I think we pretty much know where that's going to go. And then at that point, if Donald Trump's lawyers are in fact able to identify something that they claim is a constitutional issue, then they could try to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, I say if they can prove there is a constitutional issue, but let's face it, we have the most corrupt Supreme Court in history. So even if they don't have a clear constitutional issue, there's still a very good chance that the U.S. Supreme Court would still take the case. But I think what is far more likely to avoid any kind of political issues, to avoid any kind of, ramifications, I think the Supreme Court would simply reject it. Sorry, we're not going to take up the case. Your constitutional issue does not exist. It's the lower or state Supreme Court's decision is final. That is the most likely outcome. And I'll tell you why. It will take at least a year, possibly more than a year, for Donald Trump to get his case through the appellate system. I mean, technically, they could drag it out 4 or 5 years if they want. I mean, Judge Eileen Cannon seems to be doing it just fine with the documents case, so why can't those judges just do the same, right? Give him a taste of his own medicine. Perfectly legal. May not seem ethical, but it's legal. And by that time, you know who's probably not going to be on the Supreme Court anymore? Clarence Thomas, Alito, probably even Roberts. And if this case, if the conviction has the effect on the election that it's already showing it's going to have, President Biden or possibly Kamala Harris will be president at that time. They're going to appoint a liberal justice, maybe 2, maybe 3. Suddenly, you've got a Supreme Court that's no longer in Donald Trump's favor. So then things could really change, and that's why you're likely to have a court say, nope, we're good. State Supreme Court got it right. So if this can get dragged out for just a couple years, maybe wait out Clarence Thomas, then suddenly Trump's chances of getting this overturned by a corrupt Supreme Court no longer exist because a lot of the corruption on that court will already be gone. Hey everybody, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we are closing in on a pretty major milestone here at Fair and Balanced as we approach 500,000 subscribers. But we're not there yet, and we definitely need your support. So if you're not already, please do subscribe to the channel, and don't forget, like and comment on the videos and share them as widely as possible.